Are you done playing?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Stop right there. Stop right there. Okay. All right, spin. Keep spinning. Keep spinning. All right, hand sanitizer. All right. Take the mask off. You're good.
Black.
Dad, I need to use the bathroom.
Number 1 or number 2?
Number 2. This is it. 3 pieces of toilet paper.
That's it, man. Times are tough. Make it work.
What the heck?
Use both sides. Hello everybody, hope everybody is doing fantastic. Hope you guys are all staying safe. Let me put you guys, is that good? Set you guys down, I don't want you getting motion sick from me bobbling around everywhere. We are at home, living that quarantine life, also living that homeschool life, which I wasn't meant to be a teacher, so there's that. But we're making the best of it. But today I thought we would spend a little time to address an atrocity, an unfairness that's going on this channel. Coffee is not getting a fair share of screen time. Yes, it's unfair. We talk so much about whiskey on this channel and we don't talk that much about my other favorite beverage, coffee. I thought today we would spend a little bit of time, since we're all stuck here at home, and we could talk about my favorite ways to brew/make coffee at home. The first step in having a good cup of coffee is starting with good coffee. If you start with crap coffee, I don't care how you brew it or what you use to brew it, it's not gonna be good. Crap coffee makes crap coffee. The problem there is I have a hard time finding really good coffee locally. Grocery stores, come on, pre-ground Folgers is not good coffee. Let's be real. Finding good coffee can be tough sometimes. Honestly, with all this crazy crap that's going on right now, ain't nobody trying to risk going out and getting Rona over a cup of Joe. That's where the sponsor of today's video comes in clutch. Big thanks to Trade Coffee, by the way, for sponsoring today's video. So Trade Coffee is cool because it is a company that hooks you up with some of the nation's top roasters and delivers the coffee straight to your door. Oh, look at that. What a coincidence. Isn't that just the happiest little coincidence that just happened to be delivered right now? I didn't just set this at the front door just for this ad spot. I wouldn't do something like that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to Trade's website. You're gonna fill out the questionnaire. It's gonna have some questions that helps them narrow down your flavor profile. That way they can make sure they send you some coffee that you really enjoy. You're gonna fill that out. Then you're gonna select your frequency. If you're like me, it's gonna be pretty frequent because I drink a crap load of coffee. I love coffee, but you select your frequency and then you are going to get a sweet little package of awesomeness delivered straight to your door. You can also go to their website after you get your delivery and rate the coffee that you've gotten. That way that can really help them kind of narrow down and pinpoint, make sure they're sending you the absolute best fit for you. Trade was also nice enough to give me a discount code for you guys. So check the description down below. There will be a link. If you click that, that is gonna give the first 100 people 30% off their first bag of coffee from Trade. So now that we have our coffee squared away, let's get on to my favorite ways to brew these little beans of happiness. So number one, probably the most common way you'll ever see anybody brew coffee, good old standard, the automatic drip. It is reasonably easy and cheap to get into making coffee with an automatic drip. You can get pots for really inexpensive. It takes little to no skill. You just kind of put it in there, push start, and it goes. It's super convenient. Most automatic drip coffee makers have timers on them, so you can preload everything the night before you go to sleep, and when you wake up, your coffee's nice and fresh and hot and ready for you to sip to wake you out of your morning coma. Also, most pre-ground coffee you buy in the store is ground for automatic drip, so there is no real requirement to have a grinder. You can just buy pre-ground coffee at the store and you're ready to rip. I still prefer to grind my own coffee, even with drip, and I recommend it. But if you don't want to get invested in all that, the only things you really need for to make automatic drip coffee is just some coffee of some nature. You can even get it pre-ground, like I mentioned, some filters, and the pot. That's it. Pretty cut and dry. Probably the least amount of crap you have to have and the easiest way to make coffee by far. The only kind of drawback is, in my opinion, it doesn't make the absolute best cup of coffee. Don't get me wrong, it's decent, but there are far better ways to brew a cup of coffee than automatic drip. Coffee pot I use, and I really actually like a lot, my wife likes it too, she uses it every day, is the Breville Precision Brewer. The great thing about the Breville Precision Brewer is it gives you a lot of control that most automatic coffee pots don't give you. You can control the flow rate, you can control the temperature of the water, you can control a bloom time on the coffee, lots of granular kind of stuff with that coffee pot that allows you to make a cup of coffee that is way better than just your standard, no control of any of those things kind of cup of coffee. So big fan if you are a coffee nerd and you need the simplicity and the ease and convenience of a automatic drip, I definitely suggest the Breville Precision Brewer. Number 2, and very possibly my favorite way to make an actual just regular cup of coffee, pour over. I know you guys have probably heard a ton about pour over. It's a very popular thing right now. It's very hipster. It's very kind of all those things, very trendy kind of thing, but it really is the best way, in my opinion, to brew a cup of coffee. It's just better, period. That's it. It's just better. Next. No, just kidding. I'm going to give you a little more than just it's better. You can really tailor it to your tastes and the particular type of bean and roast that you're using to make the best cup of coffee. You can control your coffee to water ratio. You can control your water temperature. You can control your flow rate. You can control your grind size, all that stuff. It's just complete control. Plus, there's kind of a ritual to doing it that's kind of satisfying. That could be a downside or a plus, depending on how you look at it, because it does take way longer to make pour over. But it's also, there's like a ritual to it that's kind of relaxing to me. I enjoy doing it. But if you're in a rush in the morning when you first get up and you're tired and you're foggy, it can definitely also be the worst part of pour over, certainly. But you can really make an awesome cup of coffee, and especially with a Chemex that was designed by I think he was a chemist, or he designed chemistry glass. He had something to do, the guy who did Chemex has something to do with chemistry, which is I think why it's called a Chemex, but it's been around since like the 60s, I think. It's something to do with the filtering out certain parts of the cup. It just makes a super smooth, really awesome cup of coffee. If you've never had Chemex pour over, suggest you try it. It'll change your life. It really will. First time I had Chemex, I was amazed. I could be completely full of crap. I probably need to blind taste test that at some point, because I'm sitting there saying how great it is and it's life-changing. And I would be curious to see, I really feel like I'm absolutely accurate and I can drink Chemex coffee completely black and I really enjoy it. Depending on the type of coffee and if it's automatic drip and stuff, sometimes I have to put a little creamer in it or a little sugar because it can be a little bitter. The downside to Chemex is, or no good way to automatically do it, it's a manual process. It's a little fiddly. You can mess it up, so there's a higher chance that you screw it up. It's not like automatic drip where if you put the right amount of coffee and push the start button, you're guaranteed to have a kind of similar result. And it's a little expensive to get into because you really need to grind your own coffee when you're doing pour over. You can't really buy pre-ground coffee and get a good cup of pour over. You're gonna need the Chemex pot itself, you're gonna need some filters, you're gonna need a good grinder, you're gonna need a kettle of some nature for hot water, and you're gonna need a scale with a timer. So your entry point financially is gonna be a little higher to make your first pot of pour over. So my suggestions for pour over, Chemex, although Kalitas and some other ones are really good, but I really like Chemex. The kettle I recommend is the Fellow Stagg EKG, I think is the name of it. Really awesome kettle. First thing, it looks super dope. Black powder coated, looks really nice. So sitting on your counter, it's gonna look good. The second thing is it is electric and it is temperature controlled. So you can set a precise temperature and it'll hold that temperature. Some coffees taste a lot better at a little bit of a higher brew temperature. Some taste better at lower. This thing really allows you to dial that in and keep it spot on. So I really love it, and it's got the nice gooseneck for you to be able to control your flow rate well and stuff. So really excellent kettle for pour over. For a scale, any scale with a timer will really work. I'll list down below the one that I use. It was an inexpensive one I found on Amazon. I really just bought the cheapest one I could find that also had a timer function. Works great. And lastly, the grinder that I suggest, Encore by Baratza. It does a really good job all the way from French press grind, really coarse, all the way up to kind of will do espresso. It's not what I would recommend for espresso grind, but it will do a pretty fine grind. But anything in between those, it does really, really well. And it's one of the more affordable conical burr grinders. Good results with that thing. I love it. Excellent grinder for a really good price. Next, number 3, I think we're on 3. We have probably my favorite way to enjoy coffee. I have some form of this basically every single day, usually more than once a day. And that is some form of espresso or espresso drink. The great thing about espresso is it's like probably the most concentrated and pure form of coffee. And it's just so versatile. If you have an espresso machine, you can make espresso. You can also do lattes. You can do cappuccinos. You can do flat whites, Americanos. Espresso is so versatile, and there's so many different types of drinks you can make with espresso, which is one of the things I really love about it. I straight love a cafe latte. Say what you want about me. Might not be the most manly drink you can possibly drink, but a cafe latte is damn good. Get a nice strong espresso and put some steamed milk. Get you a nice cigar. Hell of an experience right there, ladies and gents. Hell of an experience. Highly recommend it. The bad side is it's also got a really high entry point. So in order to make a good shot of espresso or pull a good shot of espresso, usually you got to spend a pretty good amount on a decent espresso machine. Any of the cheaper ones, I've tried a bunch. All the cheaper ones, you get results. You get okay results, but it's not great. You really need to drop probably at least $300 or $400 in an espresso machine and several hundred in a good grinder before you really start pulling some really, really good shots consistently, and some practice. That's the other thing. It takes a little bit of practice. It's a little finicky. You got to dial in your grinder and do all these things. So there are definitely some negatives to making espresso at home, but man, when you get a good espresso machine and you get it dialed in just right, you can make some stuff that rivals any coffee house in town. Really, really nice. It's also really fast. Like you could pull a shot of espresso in like 30 seconds. If you really need some coffee early in the morning, the second quickest thing to already having it ready with an automatic drip is to pull yourself a quick shot of espresso and you're on your way. My recommendations for an espresso machine, I have a Breville Infuser. It is about a $400 or $500 machine, but it is the cheapest one I have found that you can get some good and consistent espresso shots out of. Espresso machines can very quickly get up into the $1,000 or more range. Actually, my kind of dream espresso machine, there's a couple double boiler options. There's one from Breville that looks really good. There's also some Rocket is a company that makes some machines that I had looked at, close to $2,000. One day maybe. And for the grinder, it's also a Baratza grinder. It's called the Baratza Sette 270. Again, it's like a $300 or $400 grinder, just like with the Breville Infuser. I think it's one of the lower entry point grinders as far as price that produces really, really good results. Really consistent grinds, lots of control to really dial in your grind to exactly how you want it. Awesome grinder. I really have enjoyed it. And I've had both of those for probably close to 2 years now. We're coming into summer and I live in Florida, which means it is damn hot outside, which means I don't always feel like drinking a hot ass cup of coffee or an espresso or any of that stuff. Sometimes I want a nice cool beverage. Well, the next option for my favorite way to brew coffee is cold brew. Cold brew, I don't mean iced coffee. So the way a lot of people confuse cold brew with iced coffee, and it's kind of similar, but let me explain a small difference. So you can get an iced coffee where they actually brew normal hot coffee, but they brew it twice as strong, and they add ice, which then waters it down to normal strength coffee and cools it off. I don't really like iced coffee that much. I know it's double strong, but for some reason, by the time they add the ice, it always melts most of the ice, and it's kind of a little waterier than I like, and it doesn't have a lot of ice in it. I don't really dig it. I'm not feeling it. However, cold brew, it's cold brewed. So not like normal coffee that's brewed with hot water, you actually brew it with cold water. A couple benefits of that. One, because hot water never hits it, it actually produces a much less acidic, smoother cup of coffee. Cold brew tastes very different than coffee brewed the normal method through heat. Secondly, when you make cold brew, it's like a concentrate. So you can water it down a little bit, it goes a lot further, and it holds in your refrigerator for like a couple weeks. The downside is it does take an ass load of coffee. You got to put a pretty good chunk of coffee in there, and then you put it in a cold brewer and you stick it in your fridge, and it does take a while to make, usually between like 12 and 24 hours to make cold brew. So not the fastest way to make coffee. But the backside of that is it does last for 2 weeks. So once you've done your initial brew, you can then keep that in your refrigerator for a couple weeks. And then it is quick to just pour yourself a cup anytime you want. It's also great for like smoothies or protein shakes or anything you want to, any cold things that you want to flavor with coffee, you add cold brew. It doesn't heat anything up and it really works pretty awesome. Recommended gear for making cold brew. I used to have a Cuisinart that was like 60 or 80. It might have been $100 back when I bought it and it worked fine, but I actually found one I like better recently and it's only like 30, 34, $35, something like that. Called like a Takeya. You guys know I'm not great with names. I'll notate it down below, but it's really inexpensive. It's like $30. It's a little plastic pitcher that you can put it in, you stick it in your fridge, and then it has a seal so you can seal it up and keep it in there for 2 weeks. It's great. It's inexpensive, really low entry point into making cold brew. Awesome. Make yourself some cold brew for when it gets hot this summer. I don't know if you can consider this a whole nother brew method because you use cold brew in this. So it's kind of just another method for intake, not really a brewing method. You get my picture. We'll call this 4.5 because you're not actually brewing it. You're actually using cold brew. But the next thing, God, I'm really going all over the place. A nitro cold brew. You may have heard of this. This is another one of these things kind of like pour over that's gotten kind of trendy and popular lately and you're seeing more and more of. Nitro cold brew is basically like the stout or Guinness of coffee. I mean, come on. Well, how much more can you ask for than that? I mean, that's awesome. Looks all cool. You get the cascading foam effect. So to make nitro, first you have to have cold brew and then you have to have a nitro keg. The one I have, the one I suggest is from a place called Royal Brew. Basically what it is a little powder coated keg. Keep it in the refrigerator. You keep it cold. It's good for like 2 weeks. You pour that out in a pint glass, looks just like you just poured yourself a Guinness. And it is so good. The other great thing about nitro is if you're on a diet or if you're trying to cut some calories, adding the nitrous and adding the foam kind of changes the consistency of the coffee a little bit, the cold brew, and it gives it this kind of thicker, creamier consistency. So if you're the kind of person that normally puts cream in your coffee, definitely try nitro out. It could be a good substitute for your coffee with creamer because it does kind of add that creaminess by, adding the foam and whatnot to it. And it's something different. I mean, you get iced coffees all the time. You get normal coffee. How often do you get to sit down and pour yourself a pint of a nice cold frothy coffee? It's really, really enjoyable. And like I mentioned, my recommended product for that is the Royal Brew. Big thanks to those guys. They actually sent the Nitro Brew Keg out to me to try out and I've really loved it. Black powder coated. It looks really great. It makes it super easy. Anytime you want it, you just go to your fridge and it's just really good. I really enjoy a nice pour of some nitro on a hot afternoon. Really awesome stuff. You can either go to like Starbucks or your local coffee house and get some nitro. And I mean, shit, those nitro things can run like $5, $6, $7 for a glass. Or you get one of these and you can have nitro cold brew on tap in your own refrigerator. I mean, you decide. I know which one I picked. Got that shit in my refrigerator and it's awesome, especially in times like this. Rona flying around. Risk getting some Rona just for a nitro cold brew. No need. I got mine in my fridge. Thank you very large. So that's it. Those are my 4.5 favorite methods or ways to brew or ingest coffee. Couple honorable mentions real quick though. I know a lot of you guys are saying throughout this video, Jeremy, where the hell is the French press? Well, here, I'm mentioning it right now. French press. Very good. I don't drink French press a ton. That's why it's not on my list. However, I do really enjoy French press. I have a French press maker, little pot. It really does make a very pleasant cup of coffee. It's a little thicker, a little more meat on the bone with French press. It's good stuff. Maybe I'll start trying to do some more French press, but nevertheless, it made honorable mention. Also, you've got your AeroPress, which is really great for like if you're traveling or camping. It's a little, just tiny little system you can carry around and it's good for making one little cup of really concentrated coffee at a time. And last, but certainly not least, mocha pot. I don't make mocha pot coffee very often, but let me tell you, you make some Cuban style coffee in a mocha pot where you use the mocha pot to make the espresso stuff and then you put the sugar whip. Do you guys know what I'm talking about with the whipped sugar thing in the mocha with the Cuban? Oh, it's a heavenly cup of joe, that's for sure, no doubt. If you've never done that, do yourself a favor and make a little cup of that sometime. It is delicious. That is all the ways that I enjoy making coffee. I know there are more ways out there. There's Turkish coffee and all these different ways. So if I missed your favorite method, please don't be upset or offended. I'm sure your favorite is awesome also, but these are just my favorites. I hope you guys found this information useful. Maybe I turned you on to a brew method that you are not currently using and give it a try. You'll enjoy it. Don't forget, look down below. There is that link. First 100 people are going to get the 30% off from trade, so definitely check that out. Don't forget about that. That's definitely a good deal. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to smash that like button. That always helps us out. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so. We'd love to have you on board. Hope everybody is having a fantastic week. Stay safe out there. Keep those hands sanitized. Do all the social distancing things. Hopefully we'll be through this crap soon and we can all get back to normal, please. Goodness gracious, I am tired of being locked in this house with everybody and not getting out. About to go crazy. Hope everybody is staying safe out there, having a great week, and we will see you in the next video. Gotta go get some more coffee. You know what they say, if you're not shaking, you need another cup. That's my motto.